Welcome back to some new malicious compliance stories, where people comply to the letter, but not the spirit of a request. I hope you had a great day. The first story is called Come In Anyway. I work at a bad fast food place, and because of my age, I sadly can't get a different job yet. A couple of days ago, I was throwing up a lot. I had to work 9 to 12 and I had already called out this month. I called my boss, telling him I couldn't come in because I was throwing up. His exact words were, "We have plenty of trash cans and a bathroom. See you at 5. Then he hung up. I was very mad, but I'm also a very petty person, so I thought, okay, bad, and went to work. I was obviously not feeling well, and everyone could tell when I got there. My boss put me on the line, food making, and told me to push through it. I worked for about 30 minutes before I started getting nauseous. I waited until right before I was about to puke, ran to my boss, hunched over, and threw up right on his shoes. Multiple customers saw this and started gagging. I looked up at my boss, smiled, and said, I couldn't make it to a trash can. Sorry. Let's just say he allowed me to go home. The next story is called Can't Park There. Many years ago, we lived in a rental house in a cul-de-sac. One of the neighbors refused to interact with us because we were only renters while she owned her house. Whenever anyone parked in front of her house, she would demand they move their car because that was her parking spot. One weekend, we were having a birthday party for our kid. We had to double park cars in our driveway to accommodate the extra vehicles and avoid parking in front of her house. This meant 2 of the cars overlapped the sidewalk a little. We are in a cul-de-sac. Kids play in the street all the time, so it didn't block anyone from walking past. Midway through the party, we have a couple of cops show up. Our neighbor called them to complain because her daughter couldn't ride her bike on the sidewalk due to our parking. She could have easily gone around the cars, and the cops agreed it was stupid. But technically, it was illegal to park on the sidewalk, and we'd have to move the cars. I told them we had issues with the neighbor when we parked in front of her house. They said street parking is public parking and free for anyone, as long as the vehicle didn't remain there for an extended period of time. Cue malicious compliance. We moved the double parked cars to the front of her house. And from then on, we always parked at least one of our cars in front of her house, even if there was room in our driveway. And we parked it in such a way as to block any other cars from parking in front of her house. The third story is called Free to Think Again. This happened a while ago. I had a pro forma manager. Actually, we switched roles now and then. Sometimes he was my manager, sometimes I was his, who backed me every time and vice versa. We still are friends. A part of our job was reports. The marketing used to come up with, we need this and that, and my job used to be to translate this request into something useful. And something the upper management could read. More often than not, those requests lacked an understanding of the overall market, but that's why I was involved. And I often just translated it, just informing what I have done. As in the market, sometimes the figures are, well, not as good as expected. Who to blame? The market? The planning? No, the reports are tinkered, that's why this looks so bad. So one day my, at that time, boss came up to me and said, "Do not think." To which I tried my most unintelligent, "Huh?" We actually had a good laugh, and he explained to me that they expected me from now on to exactly write the reports as requested. And the reports will be run only over him. AKA he just automatically forwarded me the request triggered by some keywords. But every conversation about it we've had ended with, "And remember, do not think." I really hated this time, but I did exactly as I was told. It hurt to see the nonsense, the not matching comparison. But I shall not think. The figures looked better, but they were so ridiculous that after a couple of months, our general manager came to us. He asked what is going on, after marketing couldn't explain the reports. Again, me, not wanting to hurt the company, did actually double work. One report for the marketing and one correct one to be stored for later. And my boss, as I was fully aware of the situation. We could explain. We even had comparisons ready and something for him to report to his regional manager. Of course, this had an impact. Suddenly, the position head of marketing was vacant. One HR who threatened us with repercussions left the company shortly after. I think 3 other folks got demoted and left after a couple of months. And the GM greeted us with, "You are free to think again for a week or 2. The next story is called Careful What You Asked For. I went with my husband to a doctor's appointment with a new dog. My husband had various medical things going on at this point. One thing was that he had very recently had all his teeth removed. We get in the office and my husband is embarrassed for one and in extreme pain. I was trying to help by answering some of the questions the dog was asking. So the dog says, "Just one of you answer." Oh, no problem. I just lean back against the wall behind my husband and start looking around. The dog realizes that he can understand what my husband is saying without teeth. He instantly looks to me for an answer, and I look directly at him and look away. It takes 4 times for my husband to repeat himself before he gets understood. There were probably a dozen more questions that needed to be answered. It was a joy to watch him squirm. It was a great visit for me after being told he didn't need my input. Be careful what you ask for, dog. The last story is called Instant Karma. I work in an office in an industrial estate. There are various types of companies around us: trucking, cement, roofing, etc. Consequently, there are a lot of trucks traveling on the streets at any given time. Important to note, our office is on a roundabout, and there are short, low concrete barriers dividing the approaches off and on the roundabout, so limited width. On the day in question, a B-double, truck plus 2 trailers, pulls up nearly at the barrier. No parking area, no space. Opens his door and hops out of the truck. He goes around to the other side and then hops back into his cab, leaving his truck door open. He then proceeds to do some paperwork. Another truck from the same company pulls up close and shouts at driver 1 to close his door so driver 2 can get past. Driver 1 is being a prat and refuses. Go around me. Driver 2 does so. Because of the concrete barrier, this is very limited space, so driver 2 accidentally catches driver 1's truck door and folds the whole thing backwards. There's a bit of noise. The door caused a little bit of damage to the canvas side of truck 2, but the door of truck 1 was wrecked. Driver 2 went on his merry way. Driver 1 finally managed to pull his door mostly closed, was still about 4 inches open, and drove very slowly away. We assumed to go back to the depot. Sadly, we never heard the outcome, but can only imagine driver 1 trying to explain it to management. The instant karma was a thing of beauty. Thanks for watching the video to the end. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to leave a like, comment and subscribe. And if you have time, watch another one of my videos. And now, I hope you have a great day. Stay safe. Bye bye.